There's something exquisitely bleak about realizing that your whole personality might just be an elaborate coping mechanism from childhood, dressed up in adult clothes and now being used as a customer support hotline for other people's expectations. You were told to be nice, to be good, to be kind. And you tried, didn't you? With the same determination as someone trying to resuscitate a dying fern in an office cubicle without windows, because you believed them. You thought being good would mean safety, that honesty would buy respect, that if you just held the door open long enough, the universe would say thank you and invite you in. But instead, you're the one holding the door while everyone else rushes through with free coffee and job promotions. And there you are, kind, decent, and completely decorative. There's a word for people like us. It's not saint. It's not hero. It's utility. We were sold the idea that virtue had intrinsic value, that being good was some kind of gravitational force, pulling rewards and good fortune into our orbit. But Machiavelli, that smug little gremlin from Renaissance Italy, he knew better. He knew the world was less a meritocracy and more a magician's stage trick. And if you weren't the one pulling the rabbit from the hat, chances were you were the rabbit. He didn't say be evil. He said, be strategic, which, let's be honest, is code for stop getting eaten for free. And it's hard to argue with him when you realize you've spent most of your life being loved in the same way one loves a kitchen sponge, useful, quiet, and replaceable. You ever notice how the world respects you more when you're slightly confusing? When you don't answer texts immediately? When you lean back in the meeting instead of forward with enthusiasm like a Labrador on LinkedIn? That's not coincidence. That's scarcity. That's mystique. That's the scent of someone who hasn't volunteered for emotional labor since last fiscal year. See, what they never told you was that goodness, when broadcast without armor, becomes chum in shark water. And your willingness to be transparent? That just made you the most readable page in a very boring book. Here's the thing about perception. It's a game of smoke, mirrors, and the right kind of silence. Not because you're lying, but because you're no longer performing vulnerability for people who think your honesty is a clearance sale. Remember the last time you overshared? The moment you told the truth and then watched someone leverage it as if they just won a bet? That moment when your voice cracked slightly and someone else's eyes lit up, not with empathy but with advantage. You know who doesn't do that? The ones who hold back, who smile like they know where the exits are, who respond to nonsense with long pauses and mysterious nods, as if weighing the cost of dignity versus spectacle. That's power. That's control. That's the luxury of being unpredictable. And we hate them, don't we? Until we realize we want to be them. Not because they're better, but because they're not tired. Because they're not perpetually apologizing for existing with feelings and unpaid overtime. We were taught to be lambs in the name of decency. But the wolves are running the HR department, darling. And they're handing out awards for assertiveness, while we're still trying to earn certificates in basic human decency. You want a secret? Power smells different. It's subtle. It doesn't explain itself. It enters the room and sits down and lets the silence do all the talking. It doesn't clamor. It doesn't over-apologize in emails. It doesn't say, just following up. It sends one message and lets others orbit around it. They don't love you more for showing up all the time. They just stop noticing you altogether. Familiarity breeds contempt, but also unpaid labor. You keep being helpful, and they start thinking you enjoy it. The scarcest thing you can be these days is someone who doesn't need to be seen. Withdraw. Strategically. Vanish with intention. Show up just enough to make them nervous about what you're thinking. Because that right there is influence. Influence is curiosity with its sleeves rolled up. You don't have to be cruel, but you do have to stop being edible. There's no nobility in being the most reliable piece of furniture in someone else's castle. You thought your kindness would make you a lighthouse. Instead, it made you a doormat that glows. They told you to be open, vulnerable, authentic, but they forgot to mention that the market for authenticity is run by sociopaths with better lighting. Be a contradiction, a riddle, a presence they can't quite label. If you're too predictable, you're easy to map, easy to game, easy to discard. Don't break character, become one. And now, if you're still awake, maybe this was never about sleep. Maybe it was about hearing someone say, "Yes, you're not crazy. You're reacting appropriately to an inappropriate world. You were never the problem. Just miscast in someone else's fairy tale." So no, don't stop being good. But stop being accessible. Stop being digestible. Let your silence become something they have to work around. Sleep well or don't. But do remember, power never shouts. It just waits.